In the steps 1 and 2, we created first the bottom and then the sides of our lid box, but we still don't have a lid. In order to justify the name, let's now add yet another box to the object, which will turn on pivots on the one side of the box and open and close. The first thing that we need is a useLid Boolean parameter. It will be used to turn on and off the lid. We'll initialize it to false in the beginning, and we'll use a checkbox which will be called chk_useLid. We'll also need another parameter of type float, which will be the open percentage. We'll start at 0, and we'll use a spinner underscore open, spn_open, to define how much the lid will open. Obviously, we'll need a checkbox now. Let's call it chk use lid as in the parameter block, and add the title label lid, and then the spinner spn_open will be called open %, and we'll have the range from 0 to 100 and the default of 0. Actually, a default spinner has a default range of 0 to 100, but it's a good idea to specify it. Now inside the build mesh, after we have created all the side boxes and the bottom, of course, in the beginning, we can continue by adding a test. If useLid, our new parameter, has been set to true, then we can define yet another box. We'll take the bottom box, call this one the lid box. Remember that this is a local variable in this scope, so it doesn't really collide with any names that we already used, because lidbox is already a class name. We are going to give it the size of exactly the width of the full object, the length equal to exactly the length, just like we had the bottom in the very beginning, and the height will also be equal to the thickness. We will need a new matrix. Let's call it the lid matrix, which will also start with the matrix 3, 1, which is the identity, no scaling, no rotation, and no translation. Then we will translate, setting by the row 4, by 0 minus the length divided by 2 and 0. Why do we have to do this? If we would start to rotate the lid, it would rotate about its pivot point, which will be exactly in the middle, and it will rotate about the 0 origin. In order to rotate about one edge of the lid, we'll have to shift the lid itself so that one edge of it matches the origin, and then we'll apply the matrix. In addition to creating the lid matrix, now we have to rotate this matrix by multiplying it using a rotate x matrix. The rotate x matrix will use an angle of minus 180 degrees multiplied by the open parameter that we just introduced, divided by 100, because we want to use the open as a percentage. So dividing by 100 will give us a number between 0 and 1, and then the 180 degrees multiplied by a value between 0 and 1 will give us an angle between 0 and minus 180 degrees. Having that matrix, we can call again the translate method, which after the rotation has been done, will move the lid back to where it belonged. We did one motion first in order to align the edge of the lid to the origin in order to get the rotation. Now I have to shift it back. In order to do this, we'll have to translate the resulting matrix back by, let's use the existing. We have the length divided by 2, but we want to also shift the position, the vertical position of our box. We don't want it to be at the bottom of the box, it has to be on top, so we'll need the height plus the thickness multiplied by 0.01. That means we'll put it exactly as high as the height defines, plus the little bit of gap in order to avoid Boolean union, creating additional faces when intersecting the meshes. Now that we have a final matrix that has been shifted, rotated, shifted back, we can use this matrix just like before in order to transform our lid. We use here the lid box instead of the front box. We'll take that mesh and we'll transform by the lid matrix, which contains also the rotation. Let's evaluate this script and take a look. If we would select one box here, now we have a checkbox that says lid and there is an open parameter that says 0%. If we check the lid, we see that it's actually shifted incorrectly in space, and if I start changing, it's actually doing exactly the opposite of what we wanted to do. Let's see where our error is. We wanted to move back the length, but we subtracted once more, so we transformed twice in the same direction. If we would evaluate now, as you can see, the plugin was re-evaluated, and if I now click and check open the lid and start changing the spinner, my lid is actually pivoting about one edge of the box. I can select any of these existing boxes and check the lid and then set some open percentage, and of course I can go to the last frame, set an auto key and open my lid, and then if I would play the animation, my box will not only change its thickness but will also open the lid, and we can do the same with all the objects. For example, open to 180 degrees, 100%, and then go back to 0. So now the blue box will open and close all the time. At this point, we can go and save this step as step 3. Now we have a lid box that actually has a lid, and the opening and closing of the lid can be animated thanks to the percentage parameter that we have, and we can also decide whether the lid will be actually shown or not.